While everybody's coming in, kind of an interesting happened a while ago. People were asking how I was wrapping the cables, and I got quite a few other guys come up and agree with me, because in today's world, you buy cables and they're like this, or they wrap them like that. And this is a commercial cable, and let's just look what they do to the wire. It'll never straighten, no way. So what do? Well, one thing I did some years ago, by the way, I make my own cable, and I know what you're going to say. Well, yeah, right. No. I got damn sick and tired of cable, especially audio cable, and especially audio cable for ham radio, because they have a shield. It's usually about 20% shield. And by the time you spread it all down, you got three little dealies. They put the push-to-talk, which is DC, right next to the AC audio and put it all in that same shield. You want to talk about RFI? Well, open up your Kenwood, ICOM, all of that, and look at that cable. None of those guys build their own cable, their own microphones. None. Oh, I have a matching microphone, Heil. Yeah, it's painted the same color. That's it. I work with these companies. I designed the equalizer in all of the ICOMs since the Pro 1. I did the parametric for everything since the 9000. So I work with them, and they will not listen. They've got their own little deal, and that's what they're going with. Well, I said, to heck with you guys. Of course, we build microphones. Now, at their invitation, build us a microphone. So we build an ICOM microphone called the ICM that is absolutely wonderful. If you have an ICOM and you don't have an ICM, you're losing half of that transmitter. Trust me, do it. It's $100, but man, is it great. But the cable is really neat. It's number 18 gauge, not 26. 4 of them. 2 for push-to-talk and 2 for audio. But the push-to-talk lines are outside of that 100% silver shield. Just like we had years ago. It's all interlaid, but it's great. It solders beautifully. And the other thing about it is, what do you do when you roll it up? If I ever see you elbow wrapping, listen, I fired people on the road. We used to have 35 people on the road when we were doing all the big stuff. And I fired a guy one time because he was, wait a minute. So we started the Bob Heil School of Cable Wrapping, and they had to do that first. Because, see, cable, when it comes out, the big reel, when they're making it, it's hot. And they put it on a reel, and it has a memory. And if you look at it right, and it's good cable, not junk, it's telling you what to do, just like a magician. Don't watch this hand, watch this hand. You want to do this and give it a little turn. Look what's happening. Look what's happening. It's telling you where it wants to go. Go back out, watch what's happening, and it just goes right in its own little circle, right the way it was when it came off of the hot reel. How many people know this? See, that's sad. This should be question number 3. I have a lot of these questions, but anyway. Yeah, it's on the novice exam. We're going to talk about some things. One of the things that's missing in ham radio is the simplest, and that's speech. Articulation. I listened to so many signals today, and I just go crazy. It all started here with me. We're going to do a little bit of history. 1956, that Harvey Wells is still on the air, 3885 in the mornings on the MoCam net. By the way, how many people here know what the AM windows are? Why don't you? You're going to get scolded. It's been there since 1959. There was a huge war. We're talking a big war. I mean the fact that there were several Kentucky guys that paid a little knock on the door to some of these sideband dudes that weren't paying attention to the AMers. And they came with shotguns and axes, true story. One of them went to prison. I mean, this was a big deal. I was a teenager. I wasn't into all of that. I was a VHF dude for 17 years, but I knew what was going on. They came together, though, and they formed a gentleman's agreement. 3870 to 3890, 75 meters, that's AM. You have plenty of other bandwidth. We can maybe get 3 conversations in there. You can get 40 conversations on sideband. So go use it. Why do you pile on 3880? Because you didn't know. You didn't know. 7290 to 7295, same deal. So please observe the gentleman's agreement. And it's crazy. But anyway, I'm still there. I'm just an old guy. 1959, things got really crazy with me. I ended up about the second week on amateur radio. I 6 meters now. 1956, I started hearing the worst distorted transmitter I ever heard. The next night, same frequency, it was there. And I'm going, what is this? It was that sideband stuff I'd been reading about on 6 meters. So, hey, I didn't know. I saw a button on my SX99 that said BFO. And all of a sudden, out jumps a wonderful voice. So every night, at 7 o'clock, I would meet this gentleman. I was in Marissa, Illinois, 50 miles from him. He was in Afton. He was thrilled because he said, nobody will talk to me. I don't know. They didn't know. Single sideband was very, very new, and on 6 meters wasn't existing. So every night, I was kind of his little test station. He was building this thing. He had taken a Central Electronics 10B plug-in coils, pulled out the 20-meter coil, taught me how to use a grid dip meter, and we put it on 6 meters, built a little box with a 6U8 and a 36 meg crystal, plugged it in the front end. What do you get? 6 meters. Anyway, we just went on for a few weeks, and then I started telling him, I come in, I play the organ at the Fox Theater. I come in occasionally. He said, well, you should stop and see me sometime at my work. So here's this little kid pulling up in front of the building. I'm now 16 years old. KMOX-CBS. What? Larry Burroughs, K0DGE, was the chief engineer. This is where ham radio is unlike any other hobby. This man, I didn't know who he was, what he was. He didn't know what I was. He took me under his wing. He taught me how to solder. He taught me how to wind coils. He taught me a lot. And little did he know, it was my college education. What you're looking at there, in 1959, I had progressed to a 20A, but we didn't modify that one. He taught me how to build a transverter. And I built in a kit, I built that Johnson 6 and 2 Thunderbolt. So I was pretty serious about things. This was a J-beam. It was an experimental antenna that they sent over from England for me. They were looking for somebody that had some high power on 2 meters. And we were doing moon bounce in 1961 and 2. And I mean, for a little kid, this is something, man. I mean, it was beyond, when I think about it, beyond a recognition of what you could possibly want to do. But it all happened, and I wish I had all day. There's so many stories. NASA borrowed that antenna. I played the organ at the Fox every night for many years. And then I also worked at the Holiday Inn. They had a 4-star restaurant here in St. Louis. I had a pipe organ I built in that restaurant. And it was across the street from the airport, Lindbergh Avenue, a 4-star restaurant, Schneidhorst. And the original astronauts came in because they would stay there because they were going across the street to learn about the capsule to fly it. We're talking about all 7 of them. And I became familiar with it. After the meal, they enjoyed the organ. Shorty Powers, all these guys were there. Well, Alan would come in and sit on the bench with me because he said, I grew up with a pipe organ in our home. My father every morning would fire it up so I wouldn't sleep too long when he started firing that up. Anyway, we got really, really close. And I told him about my ham radio, and I told him about this antenna. And he said, wow, I showed him pictures of it. Now, they weren't hams at the time, but they knew a lot about technology. And they said, could we borrow that? And I said, we got to move it to Houston. No, do you have a phone patch? Yes, I do. You probably saw the Gonset phone patch in the picture. What they did one night, about 3 in the morning, Houston called me and gave me a signal and then told me what to do, where to turn the antenna. I had 2 prop pitch motors on this thing, B29 motors, if you don't know about those. And it was amazing. I'm just a kid. I don't know what in the world I'm doing, but I'm having more fun than I'm supposed to. But it just went on and on. I still played at the Fox, and you're going to learn in a minute. What are you bothering me with all this stuff for? One of the things that really was important to me, we had about 6,000 pipes from 1 inch to 32 foot. And we had to voice and tune them. Tuning is, anybody here could tune anything on octaves, but not voicing. You have that rank of brass trumpets. As you go one to the other, they needed to sound exactly the same. I'm talking about harmonically. I don't hear the word harmonics in audio in ham radio. They just say, how loud you got to go to match your microphone. They don't know. And it's really sad to me because there's so much you could do if you just understood it. But anyway, that's how I learned to listen, was voicing. I got tired of playing. I played 12 years every night, and I opened this little music shop in Marissa, Illinois. Little coal town of 2,000 people. I became a Hammond organ dealer, and I started renting Hammond organs to Kiel Auditorium. And that became really crazy, but I didn't know. I'm an organist, man. I didn't listen. I didn't hardly know who the Beatles were. And when I tell people that, especially knowing the rest of my history, they go, you got to be kidding me. No, George Wright, Jesse Crawford, Lynn Larson, you know who those are? Prominent theater organists. I knew all about them. They were friends. That's why I listened to. It's all I knew. But we were the first people to cut a B3.5, so it was easier to carry around. And I mean, you have to think about this, everybody. This is ham radio teaching me how to do this. I only went to high school the preferred number of days because Stan Can, who took me under his wing when I was 15 and brought me to the Fox, he was a star in St. Louis. He was on television every day, played the organ for a little, and then he played the Fox. He calls up my principal one day, says, how many days has Heil got to be in class? I think it was 86 or whatever. Okay, he'll be there. So I was there 86 days. I could give a care. I knew what I was going to do because I was out playing and making a lot of money as a kid. So I knew that. But I learned to listen, and here we are in this store. You'll notice those big cabinets the guys are standing on. I go by the Fox one day. I hadn't been there in several years, and those cabinets are sitting out in the alley. And I go in and talk to the stage manager. I said, what are you doing here? He said, well, we're putting in a new sound system. I said, really? What's out in the alley? Oh, the trash guy. I said, do what? You're going to throw them away? Hams don't throw anything away. So I brought them back, got a bunch of Macintosh amps. I had heard Macintosh amps were good. Bingo. We started doing all kinds of stuff. And one day, I had a manager call me and said, I got this little band out in Ohio starting up. They need a good sound system. My first tour was with WB6ACU. Joe and I, we didn't know we were hams until about the second date in this tour. And when Joe and I figured out we were hams, it's a new relationship. It's lasted 50 years, 40 years, well, I forget anymore. But anyway, Joe and I have done some marvelous things. One of the things we did, was build the talk box. How many people here know what a talk box is? You've heard them. Well, it was Joe and I that figured it out. But we didn't figure it out. It was figured out in 1939 by Alvino Ray. Alvino Ray was a ham. He played guitar for the King family. And he had taken a throat microphone. I usually carry one. You know what the old throat microphone is and buy them from Fair Radio. He plugged the output of his amplifier into it, put it on his wife's throat, put her behind a curtain, and put a microphone in front of her, and modulated her voice to his guitar. That lay dormant until these two characters, ham radio operators, said, "We ought to do that loud." So we did. 100-watt driver, high-pass filter, what else you need? And I built it for his Rocky Mountain Way. And there's so many other stories, but where that goes is in 1974, we had been doing Humble Pie. We did every concert they did, providing the sound. And they pulled Peter Frampton out. He was the lead guitarist. They pulled him out to do a solo act. And the management said, make him sound good. Well, in 1974, his little friend, Penny McCall, they were married in her home in Marissa. I think he was all of 17 or 18. I sent her, she called me and said, "I need a Christmas present for Peter. Don't send him a guitar. He's got a lot of them." So I sent her a talk box. You can write the rest of Peter Frampton's history. And we've been friends all these years, and on and on and on and on. Now, why I tell you all of this is because it's ham radio. I hardly made it out of high school, and I'm doing all these crazy things. I learned it. We got into building big sound systems. That's all fiberglass inserts, built our own power amps. And then it happened. One day, 1972, I get this phone call. "That you, Heil?" "Yes, sir." "That's a Clips here." I'm going, Paul Clips is God on the other end of this phone in the audio business. "What do you want? What can I do for you?" "You got a cornfield I can come and crash in?" He was a crass old guy. "Well, no, why?" "I want to come and see you. You don't have an airport in that damn little town." I said, "Go to Sparta." Got an airport. He did. He came and visited me. Paul Clips, how many people here knew who Paul Clips was? Amazing man. He was the father of hi-fi, the father of the folded horn. He was an incredible guy. He formed the AES, the Audio Engineering Society. Anyway, he come to visit me, and I couldn't figure it out. All day, he's about this tall. "Well, why did you do that?" Because I figured he's going to cut me off at the limb. Not at all. Because I had a 20,000-watt PA, so what kind of an idiot would do this? Because he was an efficiency freak. And all day, it was just asking questions. Put me in his airplane. We flew back to Hope, Arkansas that night. Spent the night. The next day, amazing. He taught me so much. And not just in that day, but give me things to learn. I was writing things down as fast as we could. And it was my college education. Because what he did is he thrust me into the science of audio. He directed me to the studies of Bell Labs. And then Dr. Fletcher and Dr. Munson. How many people know about Dr. Fletcher and Dr. Munson? See, I really get saddened about this because it should have been the second question on our test. We need to know these things. We're dealing in audio and voice, right? You need to know these are the guys. Because what did they do? They figured out about listener fatigue. They figured out what we really need to hear. They were amazing. And Paul Clips taught me some of this, and then he directed me into this. Bell Labs in the 20s was something very interesting. Western Electric, that was the manufacturing arm of Bell. They had, think about this now, they had 4,000 scientists and engineers assigned to the newly created Bell telephone. Think about that a minute. They were fully dedicated into what we hear, how we hear, and how important it was to hear the spoken word, because that's what the telephone was. Well, what else do all of us in this room have to do with the spoken word? It was all about speech articulation. I'd never heard that before. And I've been a preacher for some years about speech articulation because, damn it, I don't hear it. I don't read it. And again, it should be the fourth or fifth or whatever question. It should be in our test. We should be learning these things. You're going to hear in a minute. When you go out of here, you're going to be, whoa, how come I didn't know that? The discovery was very important. Between 2 and 3K is where it all happens. If that isn't elevated, you're going to have a very difficult time, whether I said an F or an S, a P or a B. And it's all coming from what Dr. Fletcher and Dr. Munson. Okay, how many guys have you heard on ham radio that sound like this? Hey, I got my new whatever, boy, Rush Limbaugh mic, and I got her in there, and ain't I great? And my answer to them, if I very well know when I do talk to them, say, but I can't understand what you're saying. Well, you just need a wider receiver. No, you need to learn about Dr. Fletcher and Dr. Munson. All I'm doing is bringing things back to center. And now, listen what happens. We talked about 2 and 3K, right? Listen what happens. All I am adjusting is 2,500. And listen how much easier it is to understand, even at a whisper. How much easier. I don't care how much power you're running. If you don't have your audio set, we're going to have trouble understanding you, even in pile-ups. That's why in it was around 82, I developed the first HC4. How many people know what an HC4 was? I get called down many, many times from people that say, well, you built that damn microphone that sounds like crap. Well, then how come about 80% of the Contest DX guys are using it? Well, the HC4 was an element that I built. It had no low end and just cranked the heck out of that mid-range. A microphone element did that. We still have it. A lot of people don't know it. It went away. No, it didn't. It's called the HC7, and it's in our new Pro 7 headset. Yes, this is not hi-fi. No, it changes my voice a little, but how much easier it is to understand every little nuance of my voice. And if you go back to this stuff, you're not going to hear all of that. So why are we not paying attention? Because nobody's talking about it. What was interesting, this 20,000 watt PA that I had, after learning about things from Paul Klipsch, came down to 8,000 watts. It was better coverage. The audience could hear better. And it really revolutionized the sound system market. We were out for years with the top dogs in the industry, and we're still there. We build microphones today. In 1980, I got out of the business. And I got out of it only because punk rock came in, and I said, okay, see you later. and let me tell you why. It's not the music. It's the people. The people are awful. They don't respect anything. Everything they touch is terrible. They know how to do this. They wanted me to completely throw my sound system out if I was going to do this tour with this one band, and I'm going, you're telling me to throw away a system that's done things like Quadrophenia with The Who for years, and Peter Frampton and Joe Walsh, and on and I said, that's not good enough for you? No. And so I figured it's time for me to leave, and I did, 1980. So I came back, and looking for a little box here. I came back into the market in 1982, I turned on my transmitter and my receiver, and I'm going, what happened? Man, I put a bunch of stuff together, but what happened to my great Art Collins audio? Oh, well, man, we got this big hi-fi stuff, and aren't we great? No, you aren't. Your ego is really big, but your signal sucks. And there's a reason. Look at this Fletcher-Munson curve. Pay attention to that. This is gospel. Notice, down here at levels that we're talking about now, look at the holes. And you scream at the kids because they want to run things up at 100 and 105 dB. Look at that. It's almost flat. The sensitivity varies with level. So that's another reason when you wear headphones, it's much easier because it's right there. But then you have to take those and do something with them, and I did. How many people know about this or still have one? It made history. It changed ham radio. The EQ200. I wrote it up in QST just as a how-to thing. Little did I know what I was doing. I mean, what was going to happen. It hit that July of '82, and it got the cover award. I had never heard of a cover award, only because it was an equalizer. It was the first equalizer in the world on ham radio. Then the guys went out and they'd buy 31 band EQs at Radio Shack. Yeah, okay. What the hell do you do with 31 bands? You can only use 2 of them. But their ego is really boosted. Oh, it's just... So, equalization became a big part in my life. I say, come on, guys, wake up, apply the science, and once you do, you'll start learning. You see, if you've got all this low-end crap down here, guess what? You're wasting your power. They don't understand that, and I scream about it. And you reduce that low end, and it's like a balloon. You got 100 watts or 1,000 watts. If you take it off of the low end, it's going to amplify that mid-range. And I just proved to you how important that mid-range is. What if all your power is there and you don't have to do anything but equalize it? And this is the HC7. And you look at that and say, boy, that's going to be terrible. Yeah, it is for hi-fi stuff, but not for communications. Not for communications. Then we get into microphones. It's why it guided me to get into the microphone business for ham radio. I hear guys all the time, man. Oh, hey, I got my desk stand down here. Hey, oh, well, what's wrong with you? I just turned it up. Okay, if I turn it up, what's going to happen? That's what you sound like. Oh, no, I don't sound like that. Bill said I sound really good. Of course, the feedback. Bill said I get on the net in the morning, I sound great. No, your room echoes louder than you are. But they don't understand it because nobody's taken the time to really expose them to what's going on with audio. None of this arm's length stuff. It better not be more than about an inch or 2, always. Look at a performer. You ever see a performer with a microphone out here? No. You know what happens? You lose the dynamic range, you lose transient response, and you lose frequency response. And you don't want to talk in the side of it because this is a dynamic element. You need to talk in the end of it. And there's just so much to know, and nobody talks about it. And I'm really saddened because I'm a lone ship, and I know a lot of guys go, oh, hell, you're just trying to sell a bunch of microphones. No, I'm trying to sell the science. I happen to have one of the few companies that do have an answer to that science. No, it's not painted the same color, but by golly, it makes your transmitter work so much better. Yes, because it's about power focus. You saw what happened to the graph. All that power is where you need it. And then we get into the directivity of things. And we need to tailor that transmitter. One thing I should do, I'm going to take a little switch here. I love doing this when I get a bunch of hams in front of me. I think you've heard the word phase here a little bit this morning. And we all know about phase, don't we? Well, I have a little deal for you. I have two microphones, and they're exactly the same. The only problem is they're different colors. But they sound exactly the same. No problem. Well, let me show you something. This isn't anything you need to do in your station, but it's going to teach you something. And if you haven't learned anything today, you will never, ever, ever, ever forget the next 2 minutes. These two microphones are in phase. They sound exactly the same. And when I bring this one up to here, it's going to elevate 3 dB, double your power, right? We're going to go from 500 watts to 1,000 watts. You know, you spend all that money and you bought an amplifier. I am not a magician, I'm a scientist. When this comes up to here, check it out. You might want to cover your ears. There they are together. Hi, you're full of crap. Okay, then you can argue with God and the science. I'm going to take them away. I'm going to take away 500 watts. I'm going to take away half your power. Close your eyes. I want you to do this, please. Just listen. How important. We're going to take away 500. 1, 2, 3. No, you didn't hear it. You know why? The human being cannot detect 3 dB. That is not something I just pick up. That's a true fact. So let me tell you what to do. Instead of buying that big amplifier, take that $1,000 and give it to your wife and let her buy some purses and shoes. You will get more recognition, more fun, and go back to your darn little 500-watt amp. Nobody's going to know the difference. Oh, you are because your ego. Man, I'm running a kilowatt. How many days do we have to talk about this stuff? And it's, you know, this isn't something that I just dream up to do, but we're trying to make things better. But the problem we have is that I've helped the focus on the transmitter. I pretty much did. All the ICOMs have my two band. They have this in them. And the parametric was after I did the ICOM thing, the Dayton after that, Dr. Hasagawa comes to me. He's the son of the founder of Yesu. I want to do it better. So I did. I did a parametric. I said, but you're going to have trouble. What be the trouble? Education? What do you mean? Well, instead of having bass and treble, you now have 9 controls. You have bandwidth, frequency. Whoa, wait a minute. 3 times? No problem, we will do it right. They didn't. Their manual's terrible. So you go to our page. We have a whole page under support. It's called All Things ICOM, All Things Elecraft, All Things Yesu, All Things ICOM, and I actually have pictures of some of those, how you can set them up. It's a starting point. I'm trying to do something. But what do we do about the receiver? Oh my God. The receivers are terrible, audio-wise. They all have a 1-watt amp at 10% at the best. Mine don't. I paid $15,000. You got a 1 watt at 10%, okay? I work with these people. I'm screaming at them for years, do something. Oh, receiver, fine. Well, I said, Then they get in their matching speaker, a 3-inch speaker and a $100 box and charge you $4 for it. Still driven by that 1-watt amplifier. So I said, okay, we're all beginning to celebrate too many birthdays, so we better have our hearing kind of juiced up a little. We did it for the receiver. Oh, come on here. We did it for the transmitter. It is time to do it for the receiver. I've spent 2 years in this project. And what I have for you is the parametric receive system. We'll get into the speaker in a minute. I have a really cool little demo. I took this off air, and here we go. That's flat. Now I'm going to bring that 2.5K. Check it out. This is next to an MC50. Put some articulation in it. There's the MC50 flat. Put in some mid-range. There it is flat. And then the reverse, a D104. Speeded up the tape and make a real microphone out of it. I had it got lost something as about there it is flat. Wait, you hear it. Well, I wonder if I can copy that at about 30 words a minute, and so I speeded up the tape and on and on and on. And I think you can hear and understand that mid-range is so important, even on those weak signals, and especially the weak signals. Then you get into running the right RF gain. Start playing with the AGC, as Rob so nicely pointed you to. I would hope you're already doing that. Then we get into the speaker. Oh, well, one other thing. I have two, not one, two separate headphone amplifiers. So you can have a logger and you can have an operator. Or it comes with a little splitter that you can plug your stereo headphones in, and you can have individual controls if you have a hearing loss on one side or the other. What a miracle box this is, because there's a lot of us that are having that problem. No, it's now solved with that magic little box. Speakers, of course. I listened to Paul Klipsch. I followed him for years, and here we did it again. That is not a little junky speaker. It's our own 5-inch with a 3.5-inch tweeter in a tuned cavity. Paul taught me how to take a speaker outside in free air. We built tens of thousands of speaker cabinets over the years, and that's how we did it. You find out what the true frequency resonance of that speaker is, and then you build the box to that. That's what I did here. Is that done in your little 3-inch speaker in a $100 box? Of course not. And instead of 1 watt at 10%, it's 25 watts at 0.1. We're talking hi-fi levels here. Only because I want it to be good. And we're not getting good things. That's the whole deal. But I set the filters at 6K on the outside and 160 and roll them off, plus or minus. But the mid-range is tunable. It's parametric, so we can tune it from 400 cycles to 4K. That is so important, and we don't have it. You can change the parameters of that filter. It really is a miracle box. And oh, I went to Radio Shack and I bought me this mixer and it's got EQ on it. Yeah, it's got bass and treble. All of these things you buy like that are for music. The filters are sitting at usually 60 or 80 down on the low end and 10K on the high end. Talk about massage your ego. I got a mixer. Yeah, but it's not doing much. But you didn't know that because Bill said you sound fine. But here's the deal. What you want to find, and it's difficult. You can't find them. You want to do something with a parametric mid so you can move that around. And I don't care about anything at 6K or 160 and roll that off. Well, that's exactly what the parametric receive system does for you. And the speaker is so important. And I'm thrilled with it. Little baby works great. Now, we take some of this into our headsets. That Pro 7 is the first and only headset ever that has Paul Klipsch's touch on it. I've always wanted to do it. I never had enough room. But when we started building this Pro 7, we did. Took the speaker, after I found the right speaker, outside, did a free air cone resonance, tuned the cavity, all of this stuff inside, we sprayed it and all this stuff that it's covered with, and they're tuned. Why do you tune it? Because if you have a cavity tuned to the speaker, there is no phase distortion and the speaker never moves. You see a guy with a hi-fi system and the speaker's just doing that, oh my God, Paul Klipsch would kill you. He went nuts when he saw a speaker cone move because somebody didn't do their homework. That speaker's not tuned. Well, we do it in that. And if you've never played with or owned a Pro 7, then you're losing it. I know there's all kinds of copies out there, but they're copies. They're not the real deal. It has phase reversal on it. What the heck? You have to do that on headphones. I'm a phase nut. I can go in and listen to a weak signal in a pile-up, and if I reverse the phase, the little weakie back here comes up front, and they go back. You can move signals around in your head acoustically. Nobody's ever done that. We do it to all of our headsets. How easy. But again, I apply the science. And it really bugs me when I see people trying to do things and they're not applying the science. It's only their ego and their advertising and their lies. What all of this comes up to is we're the only manufacturer in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. How sweet was that? How honorable and quite shocking. Just a little company from Marissa, Illinois. When they wrote the nomenclature, I told them, I said, I'll only approve this if you write one thing, one sentence in there, because they wanted to know my training. I said, I didn't have any training. All of this was learned from amateur radio. So ham radio's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, yeah. And we're just so thrilled. Recently, Mizzou awarded me with a doctorate. And my stepson is 16 years in school to become a PhD psychologist. And at the banquet that night, the chancellor asked me how I felt about it. Well, this is way beyond anything I've done, and I appreciate it. He said, well, how do you feel? I said, not really right, because Ash has been 16, 17 years getting his degree. That chancellor looked at me and he said right in the eye, yeah, but it took you 50. So, you know, what can I say? What can I say? How many people watch Ham Nation? This has been one of the major significant things in ham radio. And you're going to say, oh, big deal. Yes, it's 8 years, I think, now. We know. We have texts. We have letters. We get phone calls. Over 1,000 people that have gotten their license because of that. And so if you're not watching it, catch it, because you see some pretty big luminaries on Ham Nation. Wednesday nights at 8 here. But you can see it anytime. It's up on the stream. Just put Ham Nation into Google. It's there. One of the things I did in the last year is I started building. I love to show people how to build because you have all these hams, new or old, and they don't own a soldering iron. And so we started a thing called the Pine Board Project. Anybody here build it? Anybody know about it? I mean, this has been a miracle thing. All these different, I get all the pictures and people are so thrilled. And we show them how to build a 5-watt AM transmitter. It took us about 6 months. This is piece by piece by piece. And we're working on a receiver now that's coming down the line. But what was so cool about it is that I would get phone calls from some guys. I've never built before. And we put it all together the way you said, because we had fabulous drawings. And it worked. And they're like shocked because it works. So we're very, very fortunate to have all the people watch that show and deal with it. And so it's one of those things. We're still out there. Only today we're building microphones for everybody from Carrie Underwood to, not proud about it, but some of the award shows and all that. But Charlie Daniels, Keith Urban, many of the artists today are using microphones built in Fairview Heights, about 10 miles down the road. And we're very proud of that. Mainly because I learned it all from ham radio. And I appreciate being able to share some of this with you. I'm not here to tell you anything about what my background was, but you need to know some of this to know what gives him the right to talk about this or that. Well, I'm just the messenger that I learned from many people like Paul Klipsch. And I'm really fortunate that I was put in that position. Let's go get some lunch, I guess, Nick, and we'll be back here in a little while. Any questions real fast? Yes.
Yeah, you mentioned harmonics earlier.
Yes.
And so I'm thinking probably the harmonics that are important, the harmonics of 2 to 3 kilohertz, right? How do you capture those harmonics and not accentuate fundamentals of those harmonic frequencies?
Well, most of the harmonics you're listening for on ham radio is all the upper stuff. I want to roll that low stuff off. There is no significance in all that bassy audio. It's all in the uppers. And it'll roll it off. Your filters are going to roll it off at 3K, but you'd be surprised how much is all into that mid-range. Very important.
A lot of people, unless they have high-end audio equipment like I do, don't realize how important that balance connector is you're using on that speaker.
Oh, everything should be balanced. Oh, absolutely. Everything should be balanced. Everything, including your microphone. And one interesting thing, every transmitter built today has balance line in. I was really fortunate that a few years back, Dr. Hasagawa said, okay, you're going to build equalizer. We're building a new transmitter, 9,000. If you have a 9,000 or paid attention, it's got Bob Heil written all over the front panel. I got my way. It's an XLR in. It's balanced line. And there's no ALC meter. It says mic gain. That's how you set mic gain. I get that question, I don't know how many times a week. How do I set up my transmitter? How do I set mic gain? Because it said in the book, set it at 3. Well, Bill said I sound okay. I said, you tell Bill to go away. Watch your ALC meter. Don't ever want to see it hit the red except on big explosions of your voice. Otherwise, you might not even see it move. That is how you adjust microphone gain. And Dr. Hasagawa let me do that. And I said, great. We're going to have balanced line, XLR, only on the 9,000. But the boards all have balanced line in if you know how to wire it. So we can take a microphone like this and use the balance line in. Send me an email, call me, I'll show you how to do it. It's simple. All right, yes?
You got real nice hi-fi specs on your speaker, but you're saying all the receivers have all this distortion. So you put distortion into a fancy amplifier speaker, you still
Yeah, but we are not having any distortion at all. It's created by the amplifier. That's the key. There's
keep the volume down low on your receiver.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Well, I like to come out of the, in the back. You know, the audio out of the back, that's clean. You don't, because otherwise you're coming through their amplifier. But keeping it low works. Well, listen, thanks a lot. Let's go get something to eat. There's a White Castle around the corner. Yeah. Thank you very much.